In this video, I'm going to walk you through a Zapier automation I've just built, which will help small to medium-sized businesses streamline their organic content strategy. So let's get straight to it. So explaining the use case, why have I actually built this Zap? So organic marketing alongside paid ads. Organic marketing is the future. It saves a lot of money burning on ad spend, and the way that these platforms rely on algorithms now, it's actually not that hard to generate traction and get free eyeballs on your content and on your business, which can generate leads, sales, and bottom line revenue. And a lot of SMBs still struggle with content. SMBs, of course, meaning small to medium-sized businesses. So I have a picture here, which is specifically pointing to why LinkedIn in particular is valuable for businesses to be posting on, but the same can be said for other platforms too. And here's a few points on why small to medium-sized businesses do struggle with organic content. Mainly, they don't know how to do it well, or they post inconsistently. And essentially, every platform that you're not posting on, you're kind of just leaving money on the table because there's so many eyeballs on these platforms, as I said. And if you nail a good content strategy, then you can really start to bring in content, bring in customers for free based off your content, without relying on just pumping more money into a Facebook ads budget. And this use case in particular is for companies who they post on YouTube, for example, but not on other platforms. So let's get straight into the build. Okay, so we're here in Zapier now, and I'm going to quickly walk through all of the steps that went into building this app. So for me, this was actually quite a complicated build, and definitely the most complicated one I've built so far. So the trigger for this Zap is a Google Drive file upload. So the client is totally hypothetical at the moment. I've not actually made this system for anybody yet, but in our hypothetical client situation, they'll essentially be told that at the same time they upload the video to their YouTube channel, they should also upload it to a Google Drive folder. And this is what the trigger is hinged upon. So when the Google Drive folder has a new file uploaded to it, the whole Zap will be triggered, and all these subsequent steps in the Zap are going to fire off as they should. So we've got a new file and folder in Google Drive. Then we move on to Assembly AI, which is a transcription service. So essentially, this is going to be pulling the transcript from the video, which is uploaded to the Google Drive. And the good thing about Zapier is the dynamic fields. So essentially, all the data which is pulled from all of these steps is sort of stored in these fields that dynamically update with every run through of the Zap. And yeah, so every time a new submission is sent, it updates naturally with the data specific to that run. It's kind of complicated to get your head around if you're new to the platform, but it's a really useful feature of Zapier, and it's what makes it so powerful. So here in our transcription step, you can see we're pulling in the file from Google Drive, which is the dynamic field. So essentially this is going to run, and it's going to generate a transcription for us of the video. Then we feed that into ChatGPT. I wrote a pretty detailed prompt here using my best knowledge of prompt engineering. So we have your role as a social media expert, specializing in LinkedIn. Your task is you will take the transcript provided here, and here you can see we fed it the dynamic field from the transcription service. So this is pulling in the transcription, which is generated by Assembly AI, into the ChatGPT prompt, and you summarize it into a post for LinkedIn, whatever. I'm not going to go through all the steps I wrote here, but the key thing that I did include is I did a little bit of research, and I found a PDF which had best practices for LinkedIn, how to make a LinkedIn post that actually does well, adheres to the algorithm, search engine optimization, and all that stuff. And I fed that, it sort of baked that into the prompt of the ChatGPT step. So you can see here, we got, keep it up to 3,000 characters, use these type of emojis, use this many words, whatever. It essentially is telling ChatGPT how to write the post on LinkedIn according to best practices and what actually does well on LinkedIn. Cool. And then so ChatGPT is going to take all this information and it's going to spit out a post which is fit for LinkedIn based upon the transcript we just generated in Assembly AI. So then we're going to feed this to an email. And the point of the email is essentially an approval step from the client. So what we could do is we could feed that directly into LinkedIn here, and then it would generate the post and it would automatically go to LinkedIn. That is possible, but the issue is, a lot of people, when it comes to posting on their own personal accounts, they would rather have some form of approval so they can read it first and then go, yes, no, I don't want to post this, I do want to post this, rather than it just automatically going. So this is what this email step is doing. You can see we're pulling in the dynamic field from Google Drive again. This is my email address. Please don't email me. But this is essentially coming from the guy who uploaded it to Google Drive. So pulling that email from there. And then here you can see the text of the email. We said, here's the LinkedIn post we generated based off of the video you uploaded. And then we've pulled in the dynamic field of the ChatGPT output. So this is essentially the post we've generated on LinkedIn. This is included in the email. Please review this and approve it using Typeform. So let's talk about that. Let's go to Typeform. So this Typeform link here is essentially how they approve it. So please provide your contact information. Let's just give it some dummy data. And then we just do a spoof email address at gmail.co. And then here, this is the big thing. So we want to say yes if you want to post it, no if you don't. For the sake of this, we'll just say no, purely so you can see the next step. So if you selected no, please provide some feedback. For example, it sounded very formal. I'd like it to be more conversational and lighthearted. So this is just an example of the type of response that we would expect here. And it's essentially guiding, it's saying why it didn't meet their standards and why they didn't want it to be posted on LinkedIn. Okay, so now we understand that like the type form is the approval status. We can go on to our next steps. So the webhooks by Zapier is what's pulling the information back from the type form. So it's pulling in their yes or no and the feedback they provided. And essentially these next steps here are all just formatting this. For some reason, I had a real hard time getting the webhook to pull in data in a readable format. It was pulling it in really weird formats. So I had to use a formatter step for the feedback, a Python script to get the yes or no readable, and then Python script again for the feedback. I'm not going to explain all that, but just know all these steps are purely for formatting processes. And then here we split it off into paths. So if they said, yes, I like this post, this is ready to go to LinkedIn, then we have it connected to the LinkedIn account right here. And this would actually shoot right off to their LinkedIn if they give it the go ahead and say yes. But if they said, no, I'm not happy with this, like we just did in our test there, then we have another ChatGPT step provided with a very similar prompt. But the point is here, the key sort of, the key thing to note about this ChatGPT step is I've added in an extra task step. So in the context I've said, you've already generated a prompt, generated a post for this client, but they weren't satisfied with it. So your task is to try again using all of the information included in the previous ChatGPT step, but this time you have to take in their feedback. So this is the feedback, which is included in the type form. That's why I pressed no when I was showing you it. So it took us to the feedback page. So then they can say, for example, make it sound more human. Then in this ChatGPT prompt here, we're pulling this in as a dynamic field. So this will update with every submission of the type form, and it will pull in the updated feedback that the client provided. So in this example, it said, make it more human sounding. So ChatGPT will take this into the prompt. It will include everything that it included before in the first step, but now it's also including the feedback which the client provided. In this case, make it more human sounding, and then it will spit out another response adhering to their feedback now. Then, very similar process we used before, we have another email, obviously sent to the same address, and then we have, hi Adam, we've taken your feedback on board and we've regenerated a post. So we've tried again, please let us know this time. And then we have a link to a different type form, which I can show you. Please fill this in, whether you'd like this or not. So once again, yeah. And then, okay. And then if you press yes, then it will go to LinkedIn. If you press no, a member of our team will be in touch. So this is once again just another approval step. It's saying, do I like this new regenerated post or not? If yes, then it will be posted to LinkedIn. If not, I'll get in touch. So we have another webhook pulling the data back in, and another formatting step. And then if they press yes this time, then it will shoot off to their LinkedIn. The regenerated post, you know, the one that's now sounding more human, for example, this is now posted on their LinkedIn. But if they're still not happy with it, even after the regeneration, then we take this path here, and it's just an email step. So this is actually an email to myself, the agency owner. And it's essentially saying, even after the second regeneration, this client is still not happy, still not satisfied with their automated LinkedIn post. So it's essentially just saying, you got to contact them ASAP, book in a call, have a chat with them and see what went wrong and what they're not happy with, and we can sort of amend the system. The reason I've done this and put in a human intervention step here is because theoretically we could just keep going. We could put another path and another feedback step and another regenerated prompt with LinkedIn with ChatGPT that'll generate another LinkedIn post. You know, this time I want it to sound more formal, for example. But the thing is, if we do it that way, it could just keep going and going and going. It could be a sort of endless loop and they may never be satisfied with it. And perhaps the reason they're not satisfied is something that's kind of more complicated than just reprompting ChatGPT a little bit can handle with. So that's why we have a human intervention step to sort of, you know, put an end to it and give us some personalized feedback. But the way the system is made and the way that the ChatGPT steps are, they're prompted very sophisticatedly. You would hope that after 2 generations, based off their transcript, it would actually generate a post that they are happy with and they are satisfied with. So you would hope that it is very rare that this step is actually reached, and I would actually have to manually reach out to the client and say, okay, we'll do this instead. So yeah, that's the system. Okay, so now that we've been through all the steps in Zapier, we know what's happening, and we've also talked about why this use case is actually valuable. The only thing left to do is give it a spin. So let's see if it actually works. So the video I'm going to be using for this Zap is this one here in my folder called Custom Knowledge Base. It is actually the last video on my channel where I turn a video showing the Call of Duty Ghost leaderboards and turn that into a readable knowledge base for a custom knowledge chatbot. So I want a LinkedIn post about this. It's already in my folder, of course, but I'm just going to make a copy. That's all I need to do to trigger my Zap, and it'll detect that there's a new file within the folder. So I'm just going to press make a copy. Okay, so now that we've made a copy of our file, Zapier has detected there's a new file within our folder, and it's actually running. So you can see we found one new file in Google Drive, and this is actually going to follow through all of the steps, and we can watch it live. I am going to cut this out because Assembly AI it takes a few minutes to generate the transcript. It's just how long the process takes. So I'm not going to include all this, but when you're sort of in the admin side of your Zap, you can see all these sort of steps being triggered and the paths that the automation is following live, like when it's triggered, and when the trigger has activated, you can actually see it pass through. So you can see right now we're at Google Drive and it's currently just at Assembly AI waiting to generate the transcript, or it's in the process of generating the transcript, and that is going to take a few minutes, like I said. So I'm going to cut to when they send me the email. Okay, so all those steps are successfully ran. It's generated the post based off of the transcript provided by Assembly AI, and it's also sent me the email for my approval. So here you can see the post. It's transforming YouTube videos into chatbot knowledge bases. Here's how I did it, and it outlines all the stuff I talk about in that video. Obviously, you can see it's taken on board the knowledge base I provided in the prompt about how to make good posts for LinkedIn. It's doing the emojis and the bullet points and the stuff. And then I've got some hashtags at the bottom. And then you can see here, please review and approve the post using the form below. It's got the link to Typeform. So here we go. I'm going to click on this, go to Typeform. It's for some reason stored the information I provided earlier. This wouldn't happen if I actually submitted the form. And then post my LinkedIn profile. I'm going to say yes. And then it's asked me for feedback, but it says if you selected yes in the previous step, just leave this blank, submit. So I'm actually happy with that post. I've said yes, go and post that to my LinkedIn. I think that's fine. And let's check my LinkedIn. Okay, so now I'm here on LinkedIn testing to see if it has actually gone to my profile. I said yes in the Typeform, saying I was satisfied with that and it's good enough. So it should be here. This is just a dummy LinkedIn profile I made because I didn't really want these posts being shot off to my actual personal page. So let's scroll down to my posts and see if it's actually here. And here you go. Right now, posted just now, it says it's the post we just generated using ChatGPT. So as you can see, this has been shot straight off from the Zap, and it's essentially entirely automated, taking the transcript from the YouTube video and turning it into a post that's fit for LinkedIn. So this system is very valuable because not only is it exclusive to LinkedIn, you could easily modify this and turn it into a system that turns a YouTube video into a tweet or something that pushes out content to your email list. And all you would have to do really is amend the prompt within the ChatGPT step and give it some best practices for these different forms, either best practices for making a tweet or best practice for making content with an email list. And then obviously you would change the final actions of where it's actually pushed to, so it would go to these different platforms instead of going to LinkedIn. So yeah, the system is up and working, and I'm happy with that. It's good.